The film begins with a renowned investment banker named Nicholas Van Orton, who is scheduled for a lunch meeting with someone named Seymour, as arranged by his secretary. At the meeting, Mr. Seymour turns out to be none other than Nicholas's younger brother Conrad, who hands him a recreational service voucher as his birthday present. He wishes for Nicholas to relax and have some form of entertainment in his life, as he's not doing well after the divorce. To further cheer Nicholas up, Conrad has the entire restaurant staff sing and wish Nicholas a happy birthday. However, Nicholas remains gloomy and drives himself back home. On his way, he recalls in quick flashes his father committing suicide on his birthday when he was still young. This incident adds context to why Nicholas has never been able to celebrate his birthday. Nicholas arrives home and watches the news on TV, during which he receives a call from his ex-wife, Elizabeth, who wishes him a happy birthday. The next day, Nicholas meets his clients at a building where Conrad's mentioned recreation service has an office, so he visits it out of curiosity. There, he meets a man named Jim, who supervises everything. He assures Nicholas that he doesn't have to do anything, as things will come his way through them. Nicholas gets tempted and decides to take their service. First, Jim makes him fill out some forms, after which he examines him mentally and physically. While waiting for the examination results, Nicholas hangs out at a local bar, where he comes across some men talking about CRS. He joins them to find out more about CRS, but gets nothing out of them. The scene abruptly shifts to Nicholas in a work meeting, during which he receives a call from CRS announcing that he has failed the examination. Therefore, he will not be served by them. Disappointed, Nicholas carries on with work. When he arrives home that night, he finds a puppeteer doll lying in front of his doorstep. Upon checking it, he finds a CRS key inside the puppet's mouth. Now clueless, Nicholas brings the key and the puppet inside the house along with him and puts on the news. He becomes startled when the daily news anchor starts referring to him. He tells Nicholas that there will come a moment when he will need to use the key. Nicholas doesn't understand how the anchor can converse with him through the news, so the anchor throws a slight hint. Nicholas quickly picks up on it and figures out that he's being watched through the cameras installed in the puppet's eyes. The next day, Nicholas is seen waiting at the airport, where his lawyer offers him to come along, but Nicholas decides to fly alone. When he gets in the car at the airport, he discovers spare shirts that someone has dropped for him, presumably the CRS. Nicholas finally meets with his business partner for the purpose of firing him from his company due to some personal differences. He tries to open his briefcase, which contains some necessary documents. Strangely, his briefcase doesn't unlock with the key he usually uses. Hence, he uses the CRS key to open the case, but that doesn't work out either. He takes the flight back to his town, where he's seen throwing a tantrum while smashing the briefcase against a bench. Once again, the scene suddenly cut to Nicholas dining alone. A waitress named Christine mistakenly spills red wine all over his white shirt, due to which she gets fired from work. Nicholas is moved to a new table, where he finds a note asking him to stop Christine from leaving. Despite being awkward, Nicholas follows the instruction and tries to stop Christine, who's heading home now. He starts questioning her about the game, but since she's genuinely clueless, she thinks of him as a crazy person and walks away. Suddenly, an ambiguous man appears out of nowhere and faints on the road. Nicholas runs to check up on him, and so does Christine. Not knowing what to do, Nicholas stops a patrolling police vehicle and lets them deal with the man. Strangely, the cops urge Nicholas and Christine to accompany the unconscious man to the hospital to fill out his forms. The two oblige and hop in the ambulance, which deserts them in the hospital's parking lot. Suddenly, a total blackout takes place, and everyone vanishes, leaving Nicholas and Christine to decide their next move. Christine becomes perplexed by the events, so Nicholas explains to her what he certainly thinks is a part of the CRS game. As they move forward, they discover an elevator with its lights turned on. However, the elevator doesn't work until Nicholas starts it by using his first key. Suddenly the lights start to flicker, and the elevator stops. Exhausted of options, they use the emergency door on the elevator's roof and climb its shaft to access the ground floor, which turns out to be the CRS club instead of the hospital. As they move around, the alarms get triggered via motion sensors, and the cops are called automatically. Christine thinks the cops will suspect them of being thieves, so she runs away from there. Nicholas also goes after her. Together, they escape through the fire exit. Outside, the police spot them and unleash their dogs on them. During the chase, Nicholas and Christine climb a wooden staircase, during which one of the dogs grabs Nicholas by the foot. Christine pulls him up, but the dog gets one of his shoes and runs off with it. From there, they enter an abandoned building. The two discover a balcony, from where they jump off and land on top of some puffy trash bags. The two successfully make it to Nicholas's office. Nicholas calls a cab for Christine to head home. Before leaving, she reveals that someone paid her to spill wine on him. As the suspense builds, Nicholas returns home. He gets a panicky call from his secretary, telling him about his credit card being used at a certain hotel room. When Nicholas checks into that room to catch the culprit, he finds his clothes and a signed bill along with some promiscuous photos of women in his briefcase and a stash of drugs. Nicholas figures that he's being framed as a criminal, so he immediately heads to the bathroom to flush the drugs. The drugs are placed on a glass tray, which breaks and cuts Nicholas's finger. He stops the bleeding while panicking and starts to pack all the photos in his briefcase, after which he quietly leaves the hotel. On his way back home, he clocks the man tailing him. He stops his car in an alley and confronts him, during which he snatches his gun from him and shoots fire in the air. The man claims to be a private detective who was hired to stalk him. Nicholas lets him go and visits his ex-business partner out of sheer frustration. Nicholas accuses him of all the things that are happening to him, but he turns out to be in utter oblivion regarding the things he's being accused of. Nicholas apologizes for barging into his place like a lunatic and consults his lawyer for legal advice regarding the promiscuous photos he found in his briefcase. When he returns to his home, he sees vile graffiti drawn all over his house walls, which is only visible under the violet light. He starts to collapse mentally and calls the cops to report the forced entry. Suddenly, Conrad arrives outside his house, urging him to leave with him right away. As Nicholas drives away with him, Conrad shares that the CRS is after his life as well. He's tried to pay them multiple times, but they won't stop bugging him. Suddenly, their car's front tire goes flat. Conrad becomes paranoid, thinking that it's also a part of the game, but Nicholas assures him otherwise and gets out of the car to fix the tire. In the meantime, Conrad finds hundreds of CRS keys in Nicholas's car, which further triggers his paranoia. He thinks Nicholas is also working with the CRS and runs away from him. Out of options, Nicholas takes a taxi back home, but the driver drives him to the bridge above the riverbank. All of a sudden, he jumps out of the taxi and lets it fall off the bridge. While drowning, Nicholas pulls out a lever that the CRS had provided him earlier. He uses it to open the car door and then swims back up. Up next, he brings his lawyer to the CRS club, but to his shock, that place has been abandoned. The cops also endorse that the place hasn't been rented in a long time. Nicholas decides to track the CRS down, so he takes his first step by finding Christine. At her house, he spots a price tag on the lamp, no water in the faucet, and finds her fridge empty, which exposes everything as a setup. When he confronts Christine about this, she ends up exposing the CRS, who are watching them through the CCTV. Nicholas finally loses his calm and destroys the camera, which prompts the CRS to send some armed men to their doorstep, who open fire without hesitation. Nicholas and Christine manage to flee from there. Nicholas abandons Christine at one point, but when she reminds him she's the only source who can make sense of things, Nicholas takes her back and drives away. Christine finally reveals that the CRS is an evil organization that targets wealthy people and steals their information by getting them to fill out personal forms. They then hack their victims' accounts and take all their money. Christine also reveals that his brother outed him to the CRS to set himself free. Now concerned, he calls the bank to check his bank balance. They weirdly ask him to give his password to access his accounts. He gives them the password, after which they tell him all of his accounts have been emptied. Nicholas calls his lawyer and tells him to bring the cops to his farmhouse, where he heads with Christine. There she makes him tea, amidst which the lawyer calls him. He reveals that his accounts haven't been emptied, so he should relax. Suddenly, he feels a buzz and starts to faint. It turns out Christine had laced his tea. She reveals that the CRS needed the password to access his accounts, which he openly gave to the bank without questioning who they were. Now she disappears before Nicholas wakes up. When Nicholas gains consciousness, he finds himself inside a box. As he takes a look around, he finds himself in the graveyard of a third-world country. He immediately rushes to the American embassy for help, but he isn't taken seriously. He ends up watching his father's watch, which he had a sentimental attachment to, and returns to America via multiple buses. He finds his house locked manually, so he climbs the gates and breaks into his place. He takes out his secret stash of money and his gun, after which he meets Elizabeth at a diner. There he spots Jim in a TV commercial, who posed as the CRS supervisor earlier. Nicholas borrows Elizabeth's car and tracks Jim down. From him, he finds out that CRS uses low-level actors to pose as CRS personnel in front of their victims. Under gunpoint, Jim takes Nicholas to the actual CRS building, where Nicholas becomes baffled to see all the cops, detectives, and the people he recently interacted with. When he points his gun at Christine, the guards arrive and open fire. Nicholas runs away with Christine. He brings her to the rooftop and demands a true explanation for everything. At first, Christine goes along with the script and keeps confusing him. When she notes that the gun Nicholas has brought is his own instead of the fake one that the CRS planted in his house, she starts panicking. She breaks character and tells him that everything is an elaborate prank pulled by Conrad. Some people try to break the door open, which Nicholas has locked. Nicholas points his gun at the door, and as soon as the door opens, Nicholas opens fire. The bullet strikes Conrad, who was about to surprise him. Unfortunately, Conrad dies in real life, leaving Nicholas in ambiguity about what's real and what's fake. He ends up jumping off the building and commits suicide. He breaks through a banquet roof and falls onto an airbed. There, Conrad surprises him and wishes him a happy birthday among his friends and family members, revealing that it was their plan all along to get Nicholas to commit suicide so he can value life more. Here, the film ends.
Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for more awesome recaps.